welcome to the Chapter 33 Protection, Support, and Movement unit. So I will describe the skeletal, the muscular, and the integumentary system, which is a fancy way of saying your skin. So your skeletal system is an organ system that protects the organs and supports your body. So this includes the bones and the connective tissue that holds the bones together, so things like ligaments and tendons. And in total, the average adult has 206 bones. So the system is divided into the Appendicular Skeleton. So these would be anything that is like your limbs, your arms, your legs. And then you have your axial skeleton, which are the bones in the trunk and the head of your body. So you can see how it's highlighted there in this yellow color, or this gold. So both of these systems support your weight, and it protects the internal organs and the tissues. Now you have something called cartilage, which is this really tough tissue that's found between your bones, and it just prevents two bones from grinding into each other. So I would imagine for people with arthritis or degenerative issues where the cartilage has been worn away, that this condition is really painful because you get bones rubbing against each other. So it's supposed to serve as a cushion. Now the bones connect and they form joints, so where two bones meet, that's where you get a joint. There's different types of joints, which allows for different types of movement. So for example, like your shoulder is made up of a ball and socket joint, so this allows you to rotate your shoulder 180 degrees basically. It allows you to execute like actions for like swimming or like swinging, like an axe or like a hammer or something like that. You have a hinge type of joint that's in your elbow, so this allows you to like flip around your forearm. You can rotate it that way. And then you have a pivot joint in your neck here, so this allows you to turn your head side to side. Now it would be kind of freaky to be able to, you know, rotate your head 180 degrees so you don't have a ball and socket joint in your neck, and I would think that's good design, because if you could rotate and whip your head around that way, it would cause damage to your brain, so you wouldn't want to like be able to like snap your head quickly and then look behind you, because not only is that disturbing to see, that is also dangerous and would, you know, cause concussions and things like that. Now you also have an ellipsoidal type of joint, so this allows you to make flapping movements with your wrist. And then you have these joint structures here, once again in your knees and your hips. Ligaments are long flexible bands of connective tissue that connects two bones across a joint. So you can see in your knee here, you have 4 types of ligaments. You have your LCL, your MCL, your PCL, and you always hear about this if you follow sports, your ACL. So these are ligaments, again, that connects bone to bone, and then you have quite a few of them in your foot as well. Now I think it's a misconception that bones are like this like dry, dead material, but in a living organism like a human being, bones are living tissue, and they also produce red blood cells, and they store minerals in the bone marrow, which is tissue that's located deep inside the bone. Now there's 2 types of bone structure. You have compact bone, which is the hard, dense layer on the outside, and then you have your spongy bone material. The spongy bone is less dense, and it's surrounded by the compact bone, and it holds and protects the red bone marrow, which produces your red blood cells, and then your yellow bone marrow stores fat. Human embryos don't have bones at first, so the skeleton is made of this cartilage template, and then over time it's replaced by bone. So you can see how a fetus in its first 2 months has just the cartilage model. It's like a template, and then over time you get blood vessels which connect to it as this fetus starts to develop, and then you get the spongy bone material which develops at something called an ossification site. So this is where minerals and stuff are dumped in here, and this allows for bone growth to occur. And then in adolescence, your bones continue to grow and develop, and then you get these cartilage growth plates here, which lengthen the bone. You get more compact bone, which contains osteocytes, which are bone cells that develop into stronger and denser bone. And then this growth is longitudinal, which means the bone will increase in length. Bones form and they develop when you have osteoblasts, which are these types of bone cells. They start to secrete chemicals that trigger, and it tells the cartilage to harden over time. So this is in a process called calcification. So it comes from the root calcium, so that's why it's important to take in calcium and vitamin D, because it helps your bones grow. The calcium is always being deposited and removed from your bones, and your bones are the strongest anywhere between the age of 18 to 30, and then after that you start to lose bone density as you age, and this is a condition called osteoporosis, where your bones are not as dense. So just as equally important as the skeletal system is the muscular system, because it's the body system that helps move bones at the joints, and it also pushes substances such as blood, food, and fluid throughout the entire body. Now the muscles have a lot of mitochondria, and that makes sense. Again, the mitochondria is a cell organelle that performs cellular respiration and produces ATP, which provides energy for your cells. So muscles move when they contract, and it's stimulated by the nervous system. There are 3 types of muscle cells. You have cardiac muscle, which is found in your heart, skeletal muscle, which is attached to the bone, and then you have your smooth muscle cells, like those that are found in the digestive system. We'll look at skeletal muscle first. So this attaches to the skeleton by tendons. So you can see here the Achilles tendon is the tendon that attaches your calf muscle to your heel. So this allows you to jump, make cuts, sprint, and push off. So it's a very powerful tendon. There's a story as to why it's called the Achilles tendon. So Achilles' mother was a Greek goddess, and Achilles was one of the greatest warriors in the Trojan War. And at birth, his mother dipped him into the river Styx, which basically granted him invulnerability. But because she held him by his ankle, his Achilles tendon was never covered. So he was struck by an arrow right in that area below his calf, and that's what killed him during the Trojan War. So it's easy to mix up ligaments and tendons. So like how I described before, ligaments attach bone to bone, tendons attach muscles to bones, and you can see them illustrated here, a few different tendons that are in your body here. So again, it binds muscle to bone, and we just described the Achilles tendon and what it does. There are 2 types of muscle fibers. You have fast twitch fibers, which respond quickly to nerve impulse, and then you have slow twitch fibers, which is responsible for sustained movements. So here's the difference between 2 types of athletes. You have endurance athletes, which have their bodies contain a lot more slow twitch fibers, so they can run, like 2-hour marathons. And then you have your fast twitch fibers, which is responsible for like generating like fast explosive movements such as sprinting. Next up, you have your smooth muscles, which are found in a lot of different body systems, primarily the digestive system. So like things like the esophagus, which is not under voluntary control. So as soon as you swallow food, your esophagus will contract through an action called peristalsis to deliver the food to your stomach. And then your stomach and your small intestines are also made up of smooth muscles. So typically they're surrounded by blood vessels and other internal organs, which is how you're able to absorb food in the small intestines, like how we described with the villi, and how there's like blood vessels that surround it. So that's how you take up nutrients, and that's how nutrients are delivered throughout the circulatory system. And the cardiac muscle is found only in the heart, and it uses a lot of ATP. So again, because there's a lot of ATP, it only makes sense that there's a lot more mitochondria than your skeletal muscle cells. Now, it's under involuntary control, so it contracts on its own. We discussed how your heart has a natural pacemaker, which is triggered by your nervous system. So muscle contraction is controlled by the nervous system, and your muscles are these long strands which are made up of protein. I'm not going to get into too much of the detail as to how muscles contract, but you have these filaments which are arranged in this pattern here. So you have actin and myosin, which work together to create this contraction. It's almost like this Velcro. It looks like Velcro, and it like pushes along these threads, which causes contraction. So it pulls, and you have calcium ions that stimulate contraction. Your integumentary system includes your skin, your hair, your nails, your oil glands, and your sweat glands, and it's your largest organ in the whole entire body. So it's everything that covers you, protects your body, and it helps maintain homeostasis. Now let's talk about the skin first. Okay, so all tissues of the integumentary system are housed in the skin, and there are 3 layers. You have your epidermis, which is the outermost layer. Remember our Greek and Latin roots, so epi means outer, and then dermis means skin. So when you put the 2 words together, it means outermost layer of your skin. It's the first layer of protection, and you have pores which have sweat and salt and oil that are excreted, and this helps protect you from like bacteria. It also serves functions such as cooling down your body as well. So here's a close-up of what it looks like. So the surface is mostly just dead cells that eventually will flake off. On certain parts of the body, like the soles of your feet, you also produce protective proteins such as keratin that hardens. And then melanin gives you your skin tone, so it's a pigment that absorbs UV and sunlight. Alright, so right below the epidermis, you have your dermis, and this contains glands and cells that produce elastin and collagen. So elastin keeps your skin kind of rubbery, elastic, and then collagen gives it some structure and strength. So as you might notice, as you age, the amount of elastin and collagen that are in your skin starts to decrease, which is why you get wrinkles and like saggy skin. So you wouldn't want to be old, right? Okay, and then your dermis also contains hair follicles. It's rooted here, so this creates hair cells, right? Or hair that comes out, pops out of your skin. And then in this layer, you also have sweat glands, which produce moisture. This helps cool down your body when you're exercising. And then sebaceous glands produce oils, and it helps lubricate the skin, and it keeps it waterproof. And the third and innermost layer, or bottommost layer, depending on how you look at it, is the subcutaneous fat. So this is a layer of fat cells that protects and it cushions your larger blood vessels and the neurons. And this fat layer also insulates the muscles and the internal organs. So there it is, it's found here, and it's illustrated here in the gold. So that's your subcutaneous fat. It's below the skin.